these birds are not any birds of prey. They belong to a very specific group called raptors. And what sets raptors apart from other birds of prey is the way that they catch their food. They have very powerful feet, and that's because they actually use those feet and those long claws called talons to catch and often to kill their prey. So as you can imagine, they can be very powerful, but quite dangerous. So it's just important that throughout the show everyone remains seated. Boys and girls, I need you to stay on your bottoms. Can't be popping up in front of the birds. They will be flying fairly close to you. So just for the safety of our birds and for your own safety, we ask that you remain seated. If you do want to leave through the show, we ask that you wait until we have the bird secured on the glove, and then you need to exit from behind rather than walking in front of everybody. Okay, I just also ask that throughout the show, if you have any food, just keep that popped away. We do use food rewards for our birds. Highly unlikely they'll be tempted by anything that you have, but just to be on the safe side, we ask that that's away. Okay, we've just been joined by Schnaps, who is a barking owl. And you may have, if you were very lucky in the front row, you may have just heard his signature call. And that is actually a double hoot, and it sounds just like a spur dog barking. Now, unfortunately, Schnaps here is being harassed by those noisy miners, which makes it very distracting for him and has started to pose a bit of a problem for our show. However, he's come back to the glove, and you may have noticed that he caught the food on that very first flight, and that's just one of the ways that they will catch their food. They'll catch it mid-air. The other way that they will hunt is in a forest situation, fly very low just underneath the trees. So you've got to be the trees in our forest today. And then they will swoop up into the trees to grab their prey. So you may notice that Schnaps is flying very quickly. He can change direction very quickly, but this is why it's really important that you stay in one spot while he's flying about. Now when he's hunting in the forest and going up into the trees to get his prey, what he's actually going for are other bird species. So they are a bird-eating owl. So don't be fooled by the size of him. He's not a particularly large owl. However, when you check out the size of his feet, they're a really good indication of the size of prey that he's able to catch. And he's got quite chunky little feet. He's actually able to catch prey as large as a sulphur-crested cockatoo or even a tawny frogmouth, which is considerably larger than these barking owls. Now we have Schnaps' little sister out as well. This is Bo. They were actually both born here at Lone Pine, and they're now coming up to 2 years old. Now it's saying that they can catch fairly large prey, and they have that nice beak for tearing open the flesh of their prey when they do have something quite large. They're not going to be able to chew it, obviously, because they are a bird and don't have teeth. But they sometimes will catch small prey as well. And even though it's not very common that they will take rats and mice, they don't usually take their prey from the ground. Just for a treat today, we have given both of these birds a mouse, and if you have your cameras ready, this will take a matter of seconds. These guys are capable of swallowing their prey down whole. And Bo didn't waste any time at all. Schnaps here, on the other hand, needs to tenderise that head a little bit, crush the bones, make sure it all goes down nicely. There it goes.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Good. Bo's got her eyes half closed. She's looking very content right now. Now what will happen is tomorrow morning when we go into the aviaries, we're going to find this little round pellet about the size of a wallaby poo, if you like, and in that pellet will be all the undigested matter that they've actually coughed back up. So that includes the bones of that mouse that they just had, the fur, any feathers if they've had a bird, and all that comes back up again. This is very handy because it means there's plenty of room in their stomach for more food. Now, unfortunately, this species of owl used to be fairly common around Brisbane. They actually could be seen in the woodlands areas around here. Today, however, they are locally extinct. And the reason for that is not because there's not enough food. There's certainly plenty of birds around, and even things like small possums and gliders. However, what has happened is that we have destroyed a lot of their natural habitat. They are a hollow-dependent species. They do require a tree hollow to nest and breed inside of, and of course they are quite fussy. Of course they had to be fussy, and they won't take man-made structures. They won't nest inside a hollow box, for instance. So that's the reason we don't have them around Brisbane anymore. Now there are plenty of other species that require tree hollows. There are mammals and reptiles that also use tree hollows, so there's a lot of competition going on. There's also this another owl species that we have up here in our little makeshift tree hollow that is not quite so dependent on the tree hollows as that barking owl. A lot of people are familiar with this type of owl, that beautiful little heart-shaped facial disc.
Yeah.
And this is a barn owl, and her name is Milo.
Yours is
Now you'll see that she's a lot smaller. There's some really obvious differences between that barking owl and the barn owl. Whoop.
Whoa.
It's just going to fly straight in front of me there. And one of them is the fact that when they hunt, they like to hunt out in the open. They don't like a forest situation quite so much. And when they're hunting, they use that facial disc to their advantage. It actually acts a bit like a satellite dish. So as they're flying around, looking down at the ground, looking for some tasty little mice running about, they're actually keeping their ears open as well. Here she comes. And they receive sounds along to their face, and those sounds are actually travel along the feathers to their ear flaps, and that allows them to pinpoint their prey exactly. They don't need to be able to see their prey to be able to catch it. It makes them very efficient hunters. It means they can hunt when it's quite dark, and they can also hunt in fairly long grass. So just by sitting in one spot on a perch, they'll turn their head around, listen for the sounds, and then when they've finally heard them, they pinpoint it and then quite literally drop silently out of the sky onto their prey. Now Milo here has selective hearing, you may have noticed. They do have very acute hearing, and when Milo is on Kelly's glove, she could actually hear Kelly's heart beating. That's how good their hearing is. So in a situation like this, there's a lot of noise, a lot of background noise, and she has to filter that out to pinpoint on the sound of her name being called, which of course she doesn't always want to do. Here she comes. Now, for those of you who were lucky enough just to have Milo fly over your heads, you may have noticed that she didn't make any noise at all. They are capable of near silent flight. Their feathers are extremely soft, so the air passes over those feathers without making any noise at all. And also, along the edge of the primary wing feathers, they have this little serrated edge, which acts in the same way. The air passes over that the serration of the feather and doesn't make any noise whatsoever. Now a lot of people think that Harry Potter had this type of owl, but in actual fact he had a snowy owl, and they do, even though they were both white and similar colour, here she comes again, they had a very different face. In fact, the snowy owls belong to the horse owls, just like that barking owl does. They have a little pointy face, quite an indistinct facial disc, whereas this type of owl, the masked owl, have a really distinctive heart-shaped facial disc. Kelly's a little bit slow, I think, so we might give somebody else a chance to have a fly at Milo. She's really keen today. She wants to get that food. Who wants to have a go at putting on the glove and flying Milo?
Milo.
Let me see. Are there any adults in the audience here in the yellow shirt? Come on out. Okay, we're going to get you to pop this on your left hand. And what's her name? Albert is going to show us how it's done. We've even got some little selected holes in our glove here, so when she does land and puts her talons through there, you'll appreciate how sharp those talons are. You're going to turn around and face this way, put your arm out nice and straight. We have Milo somewhere coming. And she's not going to sit on that glove for very long. She's got a few little gutsy bits there. What she leaves behind of it, you're allowed to keep. Okay, so she's got a clear line. There she goes. Thank you very much. You sure you wouldn't like that? A little bit of mouse intestines there. I don't know why everyone's offended by that. Okay, now Milo's quite happy to be away because the next bird that we have coming is a much larger bird of prey and also one of our diurnal species. So the two owls were nocturnal species, like to hunt at night. This girl here, she would be out during the day and usually around the coastline of Australia. This is our Luca, and she is a white-bellied or white-breasted sea eagle. And as she came down the hill, you would have noticed that she barely flapped her wings at all. She just uses those air currents underneath those wings to glide along. Doesn't want to have to use up too much energy. And being a sea eagle, as you would imagine, they are also a fishing eagle. They like to be out and above the water looking for fish. But when they catch their fish, they actually only reach their legs into the water. They're not like other seabirds. They don't dive headfirst into the water to get their prey. They only reach those legs in. And you might notice she's actually got these bare, scaly legs from about her knees down. And she also has quite a short tail. So when she is reaching those legs in to get her fish, she doesn't want to become waterlogged and get dragged down into the water. So the water will just run off those scales quite easily. Now I did say that they're found around the coastline of Australia, but they actually can be found quite a long way inland as well, and that's because they're not particularly fussy about what they eat. They have found that it's quite difficult to always find fish that are up close to the surface, particularly in areas where the water might be a bit murky and it's quite difficult to see those fish. So they simply turn their attention to whatever is locally available. So that might be something like a baby turtle or a sea snake. They can also go for wading birds. So they'll go to a wetlands area, for instance, and pick off the wading birds, much to the horror of bird watchers who go there to see their beloved birds all feeding in this wetland areas. And they're also known as the pirates of the sky. So when you're as large as our Luca here, you can be pretty confident that there are no other birds that are going to stand up to you. So they are very happy to let some other bird do all the hard work. When they see they've caught a fish, they'll just simply fly after them and intimidate them, start harassing them until they drop their catch, and these guys will just steal it from them. We have a local breeding pair that live just around the bend of the river here that frequently head downstream. They've found a really interesting food source. They actually go down to Indooroopilly where there's a flying fox colony, or for those of you who don't know what a flying fox is, it's like a large bat. They will go down there and simply pick those flying foxes straight out of the trees, out of the mangroves. So nice and compact, easy to transport back to the nest if they have babies, and of course it's pretty packed full of like a nice little container of nutrition. Now if you didn't get a photo of our Luca, don't worry, she will be out at the end of the show. And we will have her out in the after show area, and you can actually stand next to her. She's quite comfortable with people around her, and you can get a close-up photo of her then. We do need her away, however, to fly our last bird, or second last bird hopefully, that is Australia's largest bird of prey. Down on the island we have two wedge-tailed eagles. Neither of those eagles are going to fly, so don't watch them. We should have, however, our young male wedge-tailed eagle. His name is Amiga, and he's actually 6 years old. In eagle terms, it means that he's still a juvenile. However, we're experiencing that he's now just reaching that maturity stage where he's starting to be interested in girls. So what he wants to do right now is actually take that food and take it back to a take it back to a female. And there is unfortunately a female on the island down there, but she's taken. She's happily married to the male down there, and they've got an egg actually at the moment that they're very protective of, so they're not very happy about him trying to show off. But we do have another female that he often likes to try and to impress. Now Amiga here says he's 6 years old. In the wild, they probably live to about 40 to 50 years. In captivity, probably about 50 to 60 years. So they are quite a long-lived species. And as I said, in eagle terms, he's still a fairly young bird. And the way that you can tell if they are a mature bird is by the amount of chocolate colour on their feathers of their plumage. He's got that sort of rufus colour still, and that's an indication that he's a juvenile. As he gets older, he will turn this dark chocolate brown colour all over, almost black. If he was out in the wild and he was hunting, these guys would be going for something about the size of a rabbit. Nice and easy, once again, to actually catch and take back to the nest. And also things like foxes. So we've just been joined by our last bird, and this is a little black kite who's going to demonstrate how he likes to get his food. So he's actually catching his food in midair, and if you look as he catches that food, he will also tap his head down between his feet, grab that food and eat it on the wing. And that's because this is one of the most numerous raptor species in the world. They are found in many different continents, and when you see them, they're often in quite large numbers as well. So when you have 100 or so black kites flying around trying to get something to eat, all sharing the same food resource, you want to be able to gulp your food down pretty quickly. And what they'd be going after, of course, are things that are flying about. Little pieces of meat aren't going to be flying about like this. You'd actually be after insects. And you often see this kite around the front of a fire because they'll be chasing all those little fleeing insects. In fact, they've been known to go to a very high spot and look out for fire, and then all head in that general direction. Now Zorro's a little bit shy, doesn't like people too much, but I'll see if I can get him up a little bit closer to you. You can see why he's called Zorro. He actually has that the black stripes around his eyes that give him the look of having a mask on, like the mask of Zorro. Also called a fork-tail kite, and you can see why. He's got that definite fork shape to his tail. Getting a bit of speed up this time. Now, like a lot of Australian raptors, he is also a scavenging species. They like to go to where there is an easy meal. They're quite happy to eat carrion, and they're often seen, unfortunately, around rubbish dumps and also in picnic areas after everyone's left. They'll go check out what humans have left behind and help themselves to it. Not a particularly healthy diet, however, it's one way to survive. Well, we might give Zorro a clap because I think he's just decided to leave me and go home again. He was our last bird today too, so if you would like to come down and meet Amiga. Amiga's quite shy. He was our wedge-tailed eagle, you might remember. So you'll need to stand on Kelly's side. You can't actually stand right next to him. He's a little bit nervous with people he doesn't know. Lisa, however, you can stand next to her. Just ask that you don't try to touch any of the birds. They're very tolerant up until that point, and then they're not. So you'll feel that pain if you do try to touch them. Thank you.